I might need to reuse a couple slides from last week. You think you still have those? Okay. Probably the third one. Or maybe, I don't know, I'll tell you. Be same. Rerun. Just kidding. But it will be helpful. Good morning. Oh, I've been singing all day. Yeah. Singing solo, you can't hear me, right? Huh? Yeah. We went to a conference yesterday, and they sang. Great singers. But they've been here. Was it Kyle and Brittany? Yeah. And they sang a song. Yeah, it's called "I'll Rise Again." And I can't remember words. Yeah, I just remember it said, "Go ahead." It said, "Mock my name." He said, "But my love for you is still the same." Broke my heart. Broke my heart. What a Savior. What a Savior. Okay, chapter 34 of Genesis. We're kind of we're carrying on with the lesson, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's you had to know last week's lesson to know this week's, right? Every time we read it, it's a different blessing anyway, right, Randy? So last week, I want to, Sam, help me. Throw the third slide up there, if you can remember that one. If it's not, we'll rewind. Huh? Okay. And I won't waste too much time here. I'll just get started. Kind of give you, how about the other one? Sorry. Perfect. Let's see. Look at that. Okay. Remember last week we were talking about Jacob and Esau, right? They reunited. Fell on each other's necks. Wept. Kissed. What a blessing for Jacob. Jacob's on the right path, right? Don't forget he's had several complicated years, right? Not that it wasn't partly his fault, right? Remember, down here, this is where Esau was from, down this area. Remember, he moved up, was heading up that way, met with Jacob. Jacob gave him gifts. Esau didn't even want him. Jacob said, take him anyway. Take him, my Lord. I'm your servant, right? And, afterwards, they separated. Esau went back home. Jacob said, I'll come and see you. Don't know that he ever did. Well, we do know that they hooked up again. But that's another lesson, okay? But he didn't go back to Esau's house. He headed still where? He's heading home. He's going back to his dad's. Who's his dad? Trick question. It's down here. Isaac. Right? Isaac had Jacob, Esau. Okay. I'm hurrying. Okay, so as he's traveling, right, he's still up here with all this stuff. Esau's interaction was up there, right? So he's heading back home, right? And he begins to move over this direction and then south, okay? Now, this whole lesson this week is going to be focused right around this area right here, okay? Shechem. You can say that. Evelyn's not here to correct me, so just take my word for it, okay? All right, so I'm going to begin reading in chapter 33, verse 16, and bring us up to where we're going to start today, okay? So Esau returned that day on his way unto Seir. That's what I'm going to call it. lack of better term. Mount Seir. You see it at the bottom of the map? Okay. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth. Okay? He's just moving. Okay? And built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth. Right? He calls it that. And Jacob came, here we go, to Shalom. As if I know. That's how you say it. Jacob came to Shalom, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan Aram and pitched his tent before the city. Okay, so this isn't geography, but this is where Jacob's coming from, up here, right, originally. This is that area that he's coming from, worked his way down, hooked up with Esau, and then they separated. He moved on over to this area right here, okay? Now, a little bit of history here. Samaria is only an afternoon's walk from Shechem. So there's some history there about this location, right? But that's not the story for today. Sorry. So Shechem. Esau lived right here. Edomites. Edom. Esau was the father of the Edomites. Okay? So, Jacob came to Shalom, a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, the Canaan land, right? We're talking about all this land over here. This is Canaan, the promised land. When he came from Paddan Aram and pitched his tent before the city. So he finds this place called Shechem. It's not Cinderberg. It's probably a little more, what would I say, advanced. What did I say? That's not the right word. It's just a more prosperous location, right? Pitched his tent there. And he bought a parcel of a field where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Now, just a little history. If you go back, Abraham, we only have history of Abraham ever buying anything. One time. You know where that was? Hebron, right? He buried his wife there. When he died, he was buried there. Hebron, that's on our map too, somewhere. It should be right in here somewhere. Right here. Hebron. Okay? Enough on the words. But this is the second purchase, the only second purchase we've even heard about of all the land of Canaan, of all of Abraham's people. Right? That's not that important. But the important thing was God gave them all this land. But as they began to come into this land, they had a lot of things to do. They had a lot of battles to fight. They had a lot of people to destroy, right? Which is a much bigger battle than they realize they're up to, against. Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money, and he erected there an altar and called it El Elohe Israel. Now, we talked just briefly about this last week. In last week's lesson, which we didn't cover that long because we ran out of time, God gave Jacob a new name, Israel. So Jacob, in God's opinion, is no longer the trickster, the heel grabber, the deceiver. He is a man, right? Through God's power. Okay, we're caught up, right? So we know where we're at. Now, a couple new people we want to meet and talk about this week. And this is important because this is where we're going. Shechem, although his place on the map was named to him, he was a boy, a prince, right, of a man whose name was Hamor. Hamor. So you have Hamor, he has a son, his name is Shechem. And then on the map, you see where Shechem camped out, right? And this is where Jacob had navigated to, right? Well, Hamor was a Hivite, Hivite. Now, there's not a whole lot in the scripture about the Hivites, but the Hivites were descendants of Ham. Remember Noah had 3 sons? Ham, Shem, Japheth. Ham, they hung out right there. They settled in that part of the country when God, right, cleared the waters and let them out of the ship. Okay? So, just as a little history there. Jacob buys this piece of land, okay? And there's a girl involved here. We begin to talk about. Now this is where the things get difficult. Dinah is her name, or Dinah is her name. Okay. Does anybody remember who that is? We've only talked about one girl probably in the last 3 weeks. Remember Leah? Okay. Remember Leah? Okay. So Jacob has 2 wives. He goes back to his homeland and he works 7 years for Rachel and he gets Leah. Right? So Leah has some kids. He works 7 more years. He gets Rachel, and by the time he's done, he's got 11 boys. Right? The last one's Joseph. But Leah, I hate to say it, his least favorite wife of all 4, I guess you can have favorites. She had a daughter, and her name was Dinah. Okay? Now, Dinah, it doesn't say in the scriptures, they say it was fairly young. Okay? Now, none of the people that probably should hear this part of the lesson are here today. Right? Because she is the daughter of Jacob. Okay? And when they land in Canaan, she goes out to play. She goes out to hang out in the land, they'll refer to it. Now, I don't know who allowed that, but when you look at the Israelites, they're not exactly too keen on you hanging out with the Canaanites, right? But it's going to happen. Verse 34, and Dinah. Let's call her. Give me a name, Nancy. Dinah? Okay, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. The land is Canaan land. Okay? I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not sure how people hung out. I mean, Jacob, he's got thousands of animals, right? Sheep, cattle, goats, camels. I don't think he's living in town, but he's close enough, right, to where she can go and hang out. It's like sending your kid to public school, isn't it? Regardless of how far out you live, if you send your kids to public school, while they're there, you're at the mercy of the public school system. Even my kids went there. And when Shechem, this was Hamor's son, when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. That is where the story begins. Okay? Now, first of all, if you're one of Jacob's boys, you're not going to take that very kindly. If you're Jacob, you would assume that he wouldn't either, right? But I look at the word defile, right? And there's 2 things you have to think about here. First of all, We Israelites don't hang out with you Canaanites. God said, don't marry them. Right? And of all things, you Canaanite men, don't touch our Israelite women, especially our sister. So defilement is not necessarily a perverted word. It basically means he forced himself on her. Okay? Doesn't mean, I don't know, she could have flirted around a little bit. We don't know. It doesn't say that. All it says is he lay with her, defiled her. That's been a long time ago, folks. This was written. It's no different then than it was today. We just have a different opinion today, don't we? His soul, Shechem's soul, okay? His soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. Guess what? He fell in love with her. I don't know, I'm assuming he didn't have any wives yet. The impression is that he's young, fairly young too, right? So, anyway, bottom line is, in so many words, I want to say rape, right? But I don't necessarily know that is the right term. But it definitely was out of his territory to think that he had that privilege or any privilege if he's not married to her. Okay? I mean, it's not right then, any more right than it is today. We don't know. Right. That's true. Yep. Okay. Here we go. So he speaks kindly to Israel. Here we go. And Shechem spake unto him. I'm just reading. Spake unto his father, Hamor. He's saying, get me this damsel to wife. He goes to his dad. Now, first of all, these people, these Hivites, they're not a small group of cowboys. They're pretty established, right? And to be honest with you, as much as Jacob had and was carrying along, he was still small in number in comparison to those people there, the Hivites, right, in this nation. Okay? So that might have been playing with Jacob's mind a little bit, as this whole process began. Okay, and Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now, how did he hear about it? Yeah, probably his daughter's friends, maid servants, men servants. I mean, you got it, right? Yeah, there you go. Now his sons, these are Jacob's sons, they're out in the field, right? His sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. So it wasn't as if he jumped on the camel, ran out there and told his boys, hey, we got to go take care of this. Something's going on here that's contrary to our covenant, okay? And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. Okay, so his dad, Hamor, says, okay, I'm going to go out to old Jacob and let's talk to him about making her your wife, since you've already assumed that she was, right? Okay, so verse 7, and the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved. Meaning what? They're not happy. Right? Now remember, there's 11 boys, but they aren't all Leah's boys, and they're not all Rachel's boys, and they're not all the maidservants' boys, but they're all in the same state of mind here. And they were very wroth because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing he ought not to done. I think about when I try to teach this, you can read these Sunday school lessons. They can, we're looking at the Sunday school material, and you go in there, you wonder how much of this is gospel or how much of this is just social, psychological, blah blah blah. I'm trying to be as fundamental as possible. There's no other or clearer way to state. what's taking place here, right? And Hamor, the king, essentially, he communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give him to wife. Okay? I'm going to read some here. And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. Let's just, what's the word they say? Can we just hug, right? Forget all this. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get ye possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father, I know that her blew me away, the way they said it. Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. They're talking to Jacob. Now, you know, back in the old days, I don't know if they do it, put it this way, they stopped doing it before my girls got old enough to get married, because I haven't got a nickel for it. I still got one chance left. They used to have a dowry, right? When you marry, then the family of the bride would give a gift to the family of the husband, right? Call that a dowry, right? Uh-oh. You just read, did you read this? I'm kidding. You're right. Yeah, it sounds very, archaic, old-fashioned, very. Oh, now, let's hurry along, Jeff. Right there. See it? I agree. All right. Verse 13. Okay? And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, how? Deceitfully. Meaning what? Trick. Pull out one of Jacob's cards, right? And said, because he... okay, so let me read this first. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing that you're asking, right? We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised. Okay? For that were a reproach unto us. Okay. I'm not going to go into great detail about circumcision. You could Google that, honestly, right? But back in the day, right, when God established his covenant with Abraham, circumcision of the men by the 8th day was mandatory. Okay? So therefore, all of these guys, sons of Abraham down, were circumcised. I mean, if you have a baby today, circumcision, I guess it's a choice, right? But if you're an infant, that's one thing. If you're a grown man, God have mercy. Right? I'd say it before Mark came in. Throw us out. Okay? So, But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we, that every male of you be circumcised. Meaning, all of you. All of you. Not just the kings, princes, all of you. Then will we give our daughters unto you. And we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. Okay? Verse 17. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we'll be gone. And their words pleased Hamor. If he only knew. Their words pleased Hamor, and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter. He said, I'm first in line. And he was more honorable than all the house of his father. I'm reading. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came unto the gate of their city and communed with the men of their city, saying, okay, now, first of all that, if Hamor was honest, all that he offered Jacob sounded pretty good. I mean, a lot of, anything you want here. It's at your hands. You could have. But Hamor and Shechem go to their, back to town, right? Verse 21, these men are peaceable with us. Okay? He's talking about Jacob's people. He says, therefore let them dwell in the land and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised, as they are circumcised. Hamor says, shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of his city. Every male was circumcised. All that went out of the gate of his city. So they agreed. Good deal. We're not saying that Dinah's purity is not worth everything, right? But look what these guys are willing to do, right? Because, based on their culture, hey, you have Dinah this week, you'll have Betty next week, and Carol the next, right? Was their ungodly way. Here's the fun part. And it come to pass on the third day. Okay. Anybody is athletic or does things, or you get injured, or you break a leg, right? Or your arm. The third day is a killer day. It's usually the worst day. Seems to me like if I get past the third day, I'm going to be better. Or if you play football, right? You have to go out there the first day and put a helmet on. Oh, come Wednesday, you're walking like this. God help me. But after that third day, things start to... Fever and inflammation. On the third day, the whole place, at least the men. Okay. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren took each man his sword, came upon the city boldly, and slew all of the males. Remember the other night when Mark was teaching, he's talking about Cain and Abel? The word slew. You know, you didn't just like suffocate them, right? You slew them. You took a knife. My guess is to keep them quiet. Yeah, that's all I can imagine. But the boys, those two boys went in there and killed all the males that had been circumcised. It's not over yet. Verse 26. And they slew Hamor and Shechem, his son, as well, right? With the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went out. Now, verse 27. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city. Now, what does that mean? Spoil the city. They're going to take everything. Everything. We're going to read the scripture. Their cows, their goats, their sheep, their camels, their wives, their children, their money, their images. Remember last week we talked about the God, everything. Take it all. Spoil the city because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, their oxen, their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. Now, just imagine, Jacob was he had a pretty big crowd of people moving with him across the map. Now he's basically taken on a whole town. It's become part of his congregation, as well as the wealth, right? I mean, as far as that's concerned, I mean the value of at least, I guess of everything. I wasn't going to say. You have to be careful. Michelle shut me down. But what I'm saying is all the animals and the livestock and all the gold and all that stuff, right? Remember, and we'll remember, when these guys move across the map, God, this is, as terrible as this sounds, this was still part of God's plan, right? Not necessarily, Gary Butch, can we help? They basically became a feared nation because of what? Their magnitude. They became very large, very wealthy, very, very intimidating. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I agree. All their wealth, all their little ones, their wives, took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. Now, verse 30. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land. So now Dad has him back home. You trouble me to make me stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, this is Jacob, and I being few in number, which he's not so few, right? I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me. And I shall be destroyed in my house. Don't forget that Abraham and Jacob, they had a tendency to, lose hope, lose faith, right? I mean, over the course of time, I'm saying. Not lose it, but become weak in faith. And they said, here you go, Judy. They said, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? Shall this city, this king, this prince, shall they just purchase our sister as if she was for sale? Is there a price for her? Okay. Women were not. Be careful. I'm not kidding. Yeah. Oh, brother. Yeah. You're all. Yeah. Yeah. That's a very good point. And it actually, was kind of a point that the lesson was bringing out too. And go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole lot of oh yeah, right, when you read this and you hear Jacob's response to his sons. I mean, this wasn't really just a small. He didn't just go down there and steal a 6-pack of Pepsi, right? Um, well, this isn't the last time that Jacob's boys cause trouble. Yeah, this is just the first, right? So just prepare yourself, and you know where we're going. But it's not the first time. On the other hand, I'm trying to imagine what's going through Jacob's mind as a father. First of all, he's the leader of a nation. Well, I don't. Let me go back and let me pick out a good president. If you were the president of the nation of the United States during, say, this time, right, with all that's going on in Ukraine and Russia and all this nonsense, you got to be busy, right? You got to be busy, especially if you had young kids. Let me go back to. Let me go back, for instance, and this is not meant to be taken politically. For instance, President Obama, he had young daughters. I mean, they were young, right? So and he had a pretty big job, no doubt. He's president, same as they are now. But as a father, God does not give him any special blessing, right, for ignoring the good or taking care of his children, right, of his daughters especially. Now maybe Jacob had given someone special instructions to say, these are my girls. Keep an eye on them. Keep them close to them. I tell you what, if you were a parent today, and I know you've all been parents, I have, and don't think I did that good a job at it. I know we tried, right? And there are certain things that we did, right, Jeff? We thought we'd put our arms around them. You can't go here, you can't go there. You know what goes on over there? No. The answer is no. But the devil is sneaky, right?
What's the repercussions for them murdering them then? There's no law in this deal? No.
They were the law. God is law. God is the law, right? So what happens, and I think it's what Jacob is saying, it's like, you make me stink. You boys make me stink here, my carnal being. If it weren't for God, all right, taking care of us, we may not live another day, right? We'd have no hope, right? Did I cut you off?
No, it's just that,
yeah.
I see it as that
is Mark
murdered these people, and now he's an embarrassment to the community, right? You got to get out of here, they're going to kill me.
I think I'd rather be murdered than circumcised. At 56 years old. That's all I got to say. These guys got it too. But I agree. What we're going to see, and we do see, right? And especially in the Old Testament, right? The law, God was the law to the Israelites. I mean, to this day, Jim, think about to this very day, if God was the law, things might be a little different. Now he is. Go ahead. No, go ahead. No.
He doesn't communicate with him. It's like God is not mentioned at all in this chapter. So I'm wondering, he was out on his own when he moved from Bethel to this place. I don't know why he moved.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was like, where was Bethel in the mountains?
No, Bethel is right here. Here's Bethel. Right. He hasn't got back to Bethel yet. So he's working. His dad's down here, right? Yeah. 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 They kind of. I don't know, and I couldn't tell. But obviously, I can only tell you a little bit of what the Sunday school lesson said. They said it was quite a period of time between the time he left Esau and the time he went to Shechem. I mean, maybe several years. It wasn't like as if he just camped out there one night and moved on, because he built a house and a barns and whatever, at least to take care of something he had there. But yeah, Bethel, the interesting thing about Bethel, and I'm going to quit, if we go back a few chapters, when Jacob's mom sent him back to Haran. Right. 2 reasons. Esau's going to kick your tail. You better get out of here. And it's a good place to find a wife, right? So he heads back, and don't think Jacob was necessarily God's favorite at that time. What I'm saying, meaning he had a he was probably working out of just, well, mom did it, dad did it this way, right? But at Bethel on the way back, God met him on his way back north, right? Originally. So he hasn't made, excuse me? Yeah. They had to eat. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And they were tribes. They weren't necessarily, didn't have cities.
You mean like Jacob's? Yeah, they.
As nomads moved from place to place, they moved in camps.
Yeah.
Once in a while, they'd build something, like you said. They'd build something for some reason other than just to survive.
Yeah.
But they're like Seth said, they had to keep moving, so they had so much big herds that they'd eat all the grass in one place. There wasn't nothing for them to eat. They didn't move.
You wonder when these boys start talking about, the circumcision. What do they know? What do they know about that, Chuck? Or is it just a? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows if later on that Jacob cuts these two boys up out of the blessing. Especially if there was other problems first.
Yeah, it ain't over, right? I don't know where the lesson goes next few weeks, but could be right on target for that. Okay, we're going to wrap up then. All right, if you want to stand up, we'll say a quick word of prayer. Our most gracious